Today, we're going to talk about one of the most, well, complicated and controversial figures in all of Korean history, King Sejo of the Joseon Dynasty. This was a man who clawed his way to the throne through unimaginable violence, but then turned around and used that very power to build a stronger nation. So the question is, was he a hero or was he a villain? Let's get into it.
And that question, man, it just cuts right to the heart of Sejo's story. It really forces you to ask, can incredible achievements ever truly wash away unforgivable sins? That's the messy, complicated conflict we're going to explore today.
So you can really think of Sejo as two different people living in one body. On the one hand, you have the ruthless usurper, a man who stole the throne from his own 12-year-old nephew. But on the other hand, you have the brilliant reformer, an incredibly effective leader who laid the foundation for his dynasty to last for centuries. History to this day has a really hard time reconciling these two sides of the same Nam.
All right, so first we have to talk about the blood. We have to start with his violent, brutal, and absolutely shocking rise to the throne. This is where the story of Sejo the Tyrant really begins. You have to understand, things started to unravel and fast. After the legendary King Sejong the Great died, his son's reign was tragically short, and suddenly there was this massive power vacuum. You've got a 12-year-old boy on the throne, which made the court incredibly unstable. And his ambitious uncle, Prince Soo-young, the man who would become Sejo, well, he saw his chance.
Now, here's what makes this so chilling. Sejo didn't just order the coup from a safe distance. No, he got his own hands dirty. On that fateful night, he personally led the attack. He went straight to the house of his biggest rival, the powerful Tiger General Kim Jong-so, and, as the story goes, struck the first blow himself with an iron mace. It was a terrifyingly clear message. He would stop at absolutely nothing to get that crown. But not everyone just rolled over and accepted this. A group of fiercely loyal officials, known to history as the Six Martyred Ministers, planned a counter-coup to restore the young King Danjong. Well, their plot was discovered, and they were all captured and brutally tortured. This quote from one of them, Sung Samun, was said right to Sejo's face. It's just dripping with defiance. They refused to ever call him king, even as they were being led to their deaths. And this is where the story takes its darkest turn. After that failed plot, his nephew Danjong was just too dangerous to be kept alive. He was a symbol for Sejo's enemies to rally around. And so, Sejo gave the order. His own nephew, just a 17-year-old boy at this point, was forced to drink poison in exile. This act, more than any other, cemented his reputation as a completely merciless tyrant.
So the case against Sejo, it's pretty open and shut, right? A tyrant through and through. But, and this is a huge but, that's not the whole story, not even close. Now we have to look at what he actually did with the crown that he seized with so much bloodshed.
And this is where the narrative just does a complete 180. It turns out Sejo was an incredibly gifted and effective ruler. He completely centralized the government, giving more power directly to the king. He reorganized the entire military to make it stronger. He crushed rebellions. And maybe most importantly, he started work on a massive, comprehensive legal code that would literally define the kingdom for hundreds of years. His absolute masterpiece was the Gyeongguk-daejeong. Now, it was finished after he died, but he was the driving force behind it. You can think of it like the constitution of the Joseon dynasty. It was the stable, predictable bedrock of law and government for the rest of its existence. By creating this kind of legal stability, he's the one who set the stage for the dynasty's golden age. I mean, this wasn't the work of some simple brute. This was the work of a visionary nation builder. Okay, so we've got the tyrant, we've got the brilliant nation builder, but what about the man himself? What was going on inside his head? It seems that in his later years, the ghosts of his past finally came calling, and it makes for a truly fascinating final chapter to his life. In his final years, Sejo was struck by a horrible, painful skin disease. Nobody knew what caused it, but, of course, folklore had a powerful explanation. The story goes that the ghost of his nephew's mother came to him in a dream, furious, and spat on him, cursing him with this incurable disease. Now, whether that's true or not, the story tells you everything you need to know about how people saw him, as a man being punished by the heavens for his crimes. Desperate for a cure and maybe for some kind of forgiveness, Sejo turned deeply to Buddhism. And one of the most famous legends from this time is about a visit he made to a mountain temple. There, a young boy offered to wash his back, and when he did, Sejo's painful sores were miraculously healed. When the king turned around to thank him,
the boy revealed that he was a bodhisattva, a kind of divine, enlightened being, and then he just vanished.
And the strange stories from this period don't stop there. Another legend says that while traveling, a huge pine tree miraculously lifted its lower branches to let his royal carriage pass underneath. Sejo was apparently so moved by this sign from nature that he granted the tree an official government rank, like a cabinet minister. And the craziest part? That tree, now known as the Minister Pine Tree, is still standing in Korea today, a living monument to this impossibly complex king.
Okay, so we've seen the brutal usurper, the brilliant reformer, and this tormented old king looking for some kind of salvation. How on earth do you put all those pieces together? What is the final judgment on King Sejo?
At the end of the day, the debate really boils down to this. On one side, he's remembered as a great king. His actions, while ruthless, stabilized a weak nation and paved the way for a golden age. But on the other side, he's a cautionary tale, a terrifying example of the idea that the ends justify the means, and a precedent that power can be taken by anyone willing to shed enough blood.
Perhaps this quote just says it all. It doesn't try to pick a side. It just embraces the uncomfortable, messy complexity of the man himself. He was both things at the same time. A gifted leader with the elements of an evil man. Someone who built something strong and lasting, but built it on a foundation of blood and cheers.
And so, that leaves the question on the table, not just for historians, but for all of us. There really is no easy answer here. It forces us to think about power and morality and what we're willing to accept in our leaders. What do you do with a legacy that is, at the same time, both brilliant and absolutely bloodstained?